Now streaming.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Town Council meeting. Before we start the meeting, can I ask the Council's chaplain, the Reverend Dr. Paul Edmondson, to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, and good evening, Town Councillors. Some guided the people by their deliberations and by their knowledge of the nation's law, giving instruction from their fund of wisdom. Some were composers of music, some were writers of poetry. Those are the words spoken annually by the Mayor at the church service, which forms part of the Shakespeare birthday weekend. Looking back over this difficult year of intermittent lockdowns, living in fear during the pandemic, I'd like to pay special tribute to our Mayor and the Town Council. Although you have met online and not in person, you have continued regularly to guide the people with your deliberations and by your knowledge of the nation's law. Although, Mr. Mayor, you have not been able to attend in person the year's regular events and special gatherings, you have done all you can in spite of the difficulties. But 2 days ago, you were there in person at the Shakespeare Sunday service in Holy Trinity Church, representing our town and being broadcast live all over the world. How grateful we are to the Town Council for having made a film of a virtual Shakespeare birthday procession and for making it available online. I watched it with my mother in her local care home. She was delighted and moved by it in equal measure. It was a reminder of what would normally be taking place, the playing of the national anthem, and the band leading many hundreds of people wearing sprigs of rosemary for remembrance to lay flowers on Shakespeare's grave. Some were writers of poetry. Poetry, which comes from the Greek word meaning making, is always an expression of freedom, the freedom of thought and the freedom of speech. Mr. Mayor, Town Councillors, Town Clerk, as you gather this evening to deliberate, may you be inspired by those words we hear every year at the Shakespeare Sunday service. Let them fill you with hope and strength. Some guided the people by their deliberations and by their knowledge of the nation's law, giving instruction from their fund of wisdom. Some were composers of music, some were writers of poetry. You are all of you makers on the people's behalf. You represent our freedoms, and each and every time you meet, you represent the making of hope for our community. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good and productive meeting.
Thank you, Paul. And it really was a pleasure to be in church with you on Sunday and to be beamed around the world. Can I just take this opportunity? This is your last Town Council meeting as the Council chaplain. So can I just thank you for your contributions over the last 12 months? It's obviously been a difficult year for everybody, but thank you for your contributions and particularly for your wise words over the last 12 months.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, much appreciated. You're welcome.
In which case, can I start the meeting? And item 1 is to accept apologies for absence. Madam Town Clerk, have we got any apologies?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we've had apologies from Councillor Chris Wall.
Thank you. Item number 2 is declarations of interest on items on the agenda. Does anybody want to declare an interest? No. Item number 3 is to receive written request for dispensation for disclosable pecuniary interests. Has anybody, have we had any? I don't think we've had any written requests, have we, man? In which case we don't need to grant any, which would have been item 4. Item 5 is public participation. Do we have any members of the public here to speak? No. No. Item number 6. can I, well, it's to approve the draft open minutes. Can I present the draft open minutes of the Town Council meeting held on the 30th of March 2021? I beg to move. Does anybody have any questions arising? In which case, can we vote to approve them, raising your real hands, please? And keep your hands raised until Madam Town Clerk has counted. Madam Town,
That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Item number 7 is to adopt the open minutes of the Planning Consultative Committee meeting. Councillor Ian Fradgley. You're on mute, Ian, still.
Apologies, Mr. Mayor, I hadn't clicked it. I'd like to present the minute 420 to 435 from the Planning Consultative Committee on the 13th of April. I beg to move.
Does anybody have any questions arising? No, in which case could you vote to adopt the minutes, please? Real hands, please.
Thank you. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Item number 8 is to adopt the draft open minutes of the Community Services Committee meeting. Councillor Kevin Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to present the draft open minutes of the Community Services Committee meeting held on the 6th of April 2021. I beg to move.
Thank you. Has anybody got any questions arising? No. Again, could you vote real hands, please?
Thank you. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Item number 9, to adopt the notes from the COVID-19 Stratford support meetings. Councillor Kate Rolfe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to present the notes from the COVID-19 Stratford support meetings on the 30th of March and the 6th of April. I would like to add a note that it appears that the meetings have finished. They haven't. It has been agreed amongst the group that we will regularly meet every 8 to 12 weeks and invite partners along so that we all have an understanding of what is going on in our town on a regular basis, and we all thought it was a very good idea. Thank you. I beg to move the notes.
Thank you. Could I just endorse that initiative? I think that's going to be a great opportunity to get interested groups together and discuss matters arising. Right. Any questions arising? No. In which case, real hands, please.
Councillor Howe is waving at us.
He should be putting up his virtual hand, but never mind. Councillor Howe.
My apologies, I forgot that. Can I, yes, just thank Councillor Rolfe for her excellent chairing of that meeting. It's been very, very crucial. And to say, unfortunately, I will not be able to make that meeting moving forward due to shifting work commitments. So if there's probably another space for a member of the council to join those meetings, if required. So thank you.
Thank you. Right, can we vote to adopt those notes, please?
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 10, to adopt the notes from the Town Centre and Town Traffic Task and Finish Group meeting. Councillor Voss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could ask, present the notes from the Town Centre and Town Traffic Task and Finish Group meeting and ask that the council adopts those notes.
Thank you. Any questions arising? No, in which case, can we vote to accept, please?
Thank you, that's unanimous.
Thank you. Item number 11 is to adopt the minutes from the Youth Town Council meeting. Good evening and welcome. Can I introduce Aidan Drinkwater?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I present the minutes of the Youth Town Council meeting held on the 1st of April 2021. I beg to move.
Thank you. Any questions arising? No, in which case can we vote to adopt, please?
Thank you, that's unanimous.
Thanks, everybody. Item number 12. As you all know, Committee Clerk Joanne Mays has handed in her note of resignation. And so before I introduce her replacement, could I just say on record a thank you to Joanne for all her work over the past since she started. Most of her time has been spent in a virtual world, so a lot of us have probably not had a great opportunity to meet her, but she has done some sterling work on a number of committees, and it's all been greatly appreciated. And she will be a hard act to follow, but I'm pleased to welcome into the fold Margot Galvin, who will be her replacement. Margot is on the call. Margot, you just want to speak, so at least we know what your voice sounds like. And if you want to say a few words to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors and Town Clerk. I'd just like to say I'm very pleased to be working with you. I'm looking forward to meeting you, hopefully face to face before too long, but in the interim, I'll be working virtually. Yes, Joe's going to be a very hard act to follow, but I shall do my best. I have a background in marketing, PR and communications, so I'm finding it all very interesting so far, and I'm really looking forward to getting stuck in and supporting you all.
Thank you, Margot. And please, I hope you're going to stay on the meeting for the rest. Hopefully, yes.
Yes, I do have another meeting to attend at 7 o'clock tonight, so I shall have to disappear a bit early tonight. But I shall sit back and listen.
That's fine. Just drop off whenever you want. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Item number 13 is to receive a presentation from the food bank manager. So can I welcome Marion Homer? And Marion, you've got with you one of your trustees, Lavinia Derrick, is with you, I think.
Indeed. Let me just see if we can get the screen sharing going. It was working at 6 o'clock. There we go. So hopefully that's working. So So yes, thank you very much for inviting us here this evening to talk about the food bank. I'm Marion, the food bank manager, and I'm supported this evening by Lavinia, our trustee, one of our board of trustees, and we're going to be talking to you about our 5-year strategic plan, and hopefully get this done in less than 10 minutes, and then you can ask some questions at the end. So firstly, I just don't want to assume any knowledge about us. I know some of you know a bit about us, but I'm going to go briefly into what is Stratford-upon-Avon Food Bank. So our charitable objectives are the prevention or relief of poverty in Stratford-upon-Avon and the surrounding area by providing emergency food supplies to individuals in need or other organisations working to prevent or relieve poverty. Basically, that means we're a small independent charity supporting those in crisis in our local area. We are independent, but we're also part of the Trussell Trust, which is brilliant. I think for the grand fee of £300, which they've actually waived this year, we actually get to be part of this network of food banks. So we are one of 400 food banks and 1,200 distribution centres, and we share in the vision that the Trussell Trust have, which is a future without food banks. So in preparation for creating our 5-year strategic plan last summer, we spent a little bit of time looking at our vision, mission and values to see if we could sharpen those up. So I'll just talk to you briefly about our vision. So our long-term vision marries up exactly with that of the Trussell Trust, the elimination of the need for people to require emergency food. Our shorter term vision is about providing an ever-improving food parcel service and working to find ways of helping people with the issues that are requiring them to need such food. Our mission is to work in partnership with other organisations and referral agencies. We will seek to work together to relieve hunger and poverty in the local area by providing compassionate, practical help with dignity and respect whilst challenging injustice. And then our values: we will work with our clients and volunteers in a way that is compassionate and demonstrates trust and respect. We will work fairly and responsibly to provide support to those in need, especially those in our community who are in crisis. So we did that little bit of work last summer just to kind of make sure that we were really on target with what we wanted to do. So now just a brief bit about our people. So this chart really is an attempt to try and show you our structure and to show that even though we're a small charity, we are structured quite well. We've got a board of trustees with 9 roles at the top. They manage me, the food bank manager. I've got overall operational responsibilities, and I'm supported by a project assistant who works for us 3 days a week. I then manage a number of different committees working in different areas of the food bank, such as warehouse, PR and communications, volunteering, data. And we have approximately, would you believe it, 130 volunteers who do something for us at least once a month. Our volunteers are hugely valuable to us, more than just in the labour that they give us, but we have done a little equation based on minimum wage, the amount of sort of free labour they give us each month, and it's just under £5,500 worth of labour each month. It's just incredible. And we have a holding list of 150 volunteers who are waiting for opportunities to help us. So we are very sustainable in terms of the people that we've got to help run the charity. This is our trustee board. Nick Barter, our chair, had hoped to be here this evening, but unfortunately has not been able to attend. We've got Lavinia here, who's our data and fundraising trustee, and we currently have 2 vacancies on the board, which the trustees are considering how to recruit for currently. How do we work? Well, it's a simple 5-step process. Step 1, non-perishable food is given to us in a variety of ways by the public through different baskets in shopping centres, shops, schools, churches. Volunteers then store and sort that food. We work with referral agencies who give vouchers to people in need. Those people come to us, exchange those vouchers in step 4 and receive 3 days worth of food. And step 5 is taking time to listen and signpost clients. So put simply, our food bank does 2 things to support people in crisis. We provide food parcels and we provide support. And both of those things are really, really important. Often people will think of just the food, but the support part is, as I say, equally as significant. What's in a food parcel? Well, it's designed to last 3 days. It's nutritionally balanced emergency food made of tinned and packaged items with no fresh or chilled in there. We can take care of dietary needs, and we can pick parcels of people who don't have proper cooking facilities or rough sleeping. And we're able to provide extras like toiletries, baby food, sanitary items, household items, that kind of thing. During the sort of the pandemic year, signposting has been on a real big journey for us, and we now have the most fantastic signposting support. We're working in partnership with Citizens Advice through some grants that we've got via the Trussell Trust. We've been able to launch a programme called the Money Advice Programme, which basically means that every single client that attends the food bank is offered the chance to speak to Citizens Advice. Now that's really important at the moment because we're actually reversing the normal way of things going. If that client says yes, we will then get Citizens Advice to call them. And in the current climate, that's a really fantastic thing. And we've got lots of good evidence that's working very well. Hopefully, maybe at the end of 12 months, I can come back and show you a bit more examples of that. But that's a fantastic support for us to actually make sure that we are signposting people effectively. So a little bit about data here. So this chart is the average number of parcels that we've distributed each month in the years since we've started. So in 2013 through to about 2016, we were doing around about 100 parcels a month. 2017, we had a big hike. That was when Universal Credit came to our area and there was an increased number of people waiting to get delays to get their benefits. 2020 was a mad year, as I'm sure you were aware, and we did an average of 373 food parcels a month. I'm glad to say that 2021 has seen a reduction on that so far year to date, but it's still way too high, and I don't get any delight in sharing with you the extent of the need in our town. This shows you children's parcels. So you've got the blue line there, which you've seen already. The green line shows you children's parcels. Now, children don't come to us generally by themselves and queue up for a food parcel. They're given food through their parents. And you can see in 2019, we were doing an average 86 children's parcels a month. In 2020, that shot up to 171. And the ratio of children's parcels is increasing, which really shows the number of families that are coming to us for support. And again, that's something that I do try and talk about quite a bit. And I think that's quite a startling figure. This is the chart that's always a bit more fun and positive to show you. This is tracking our food donations, which generally we take in most of our food in the last quarter of the year. So 50 to 60% of our food we'll take in from October through to December. And our job is about trying to make sure that we lay that food down and can use it throughout the rest of the year. Most years we give away more or less the same amount of food that we've taken. This year we weren't sure what was going on, and in the summer we had the offer of some large bulk donations, which we took because we just didn't know what was going to happen in the autumn. So you can see that 2020 we did £110,000 worth of food donated. Most of that was from individuals, but there were a few bulk donations in there as well. So very key message is we are sustainable, and also we share that food with partners in town as appropriate to make sure that everyone is benefiting from the generosity of our residents. So background to the 5-year plan. So those of you that have sat with me in the meetings, or I've sat with you in the meetings during the pandemic, will know a little bit of this story. We started in the pandemic year in those cabins. Unfortunately, just before lockdown, we had to close because one of our volunteers had coronavirus. And then we very quickly realised we couldn't open again in the cabins because we couldn't maintain 2 meters distance. Fortunately, through our membership of Stratford churches together, we were offered, would you believe, 3 church locations we could have gone to: Holy Trinity Baptist Church and Stratford Methodist Church. I'm a member in Stratford Methodist Church, is a building I know very well, and if you know the building, you'll know how brilliant it is. They've been fantastic, and we've been operating, we thought, on a temporary basis, but we've been there over a year now, would you believe? And we are planning now in July to be moving into the Fred Winters Centre. So there's quite a lot going on there in terms of location. So this chart, when I finish putting all the points up, there's going to be quite a lot of data on here, but I'm just trying to show you something else that significantly hit us in the pandemic year, and it's to do with our referrals. So if we look first of all at citizens' advice, in 2019, we were getting 30% of all of our referrals from citizens' advice. That's 80 a month. That completely crashed in 2020 because they were operating in a different way, and the referral levels went down to just 38 a month. We're now working at 48 a month, so that's quite a significant drop. P3, another agency that was our second biggest referral agency, 24% of all our referrals came through P3. If you're familiar with P3, they're the charity that's commissioned by Warwickshire County Council to look after people who may become homeless. It was a good reason why their referrals went down, because Stratford District Council housed an awful lot of the people they would normally be helping, so they didn't need to rely on our services anymore for that period of time. But it was a bit of a worrying time for me because our referrals went down, and I knew that there had to be people out there needing our help. And that's where you guys stepped in the fantastic partnership we've had through Stratford Town Support. During 2020, the Town Council has provided 70 referrals to us, in 2016 in 2021. And we've also worked again with churches together through Make Lunch, who have worked closely with schools to make sure that we're still supporting families. So it's been a lot of hard work to kind of re-engineer our referral process. Key drivers for our strategic plan have been around this unfortunate continuing increase in demand, and also an understanding that even though the majority of our parcels, 60%, come from town wards, we still have a lot of people in the rural areas looking for our help as well. So I look at our operational environment, and you will have seen this. I think you were sent out the strategic plan ahead of this meeting. This comes from page 6. So just to quickly go through, we know there's been significant growth in universal credit. Certain things of the last year that we're expecting to happen, possibly food price rises because of the departure from Europe, tax rises to meet COVID measures, changes to benefits, joblessness, COVID effect on mental health, sustainability of food becoming increasingly important, and access to us from rural locations. That's just some of the things that we were considering when we looked at our strategic plan. Internally, we've got some huge, great benefits. being part of the Trussell Trust is fantastic. We've got a huge resource there. We punch well above our weight in terms of the resource that they can provide us. We've got an active board with a breadth and depth of experience. I have to say, I didn't write this third line. I think Lavinia wrote this. It says highly committed, experienced and active food bank manager. Large and committed volunteer resource. We've trialled projects in the last 6 to 12 months that will inform our future strategy. Threats that we have to face are things like ever increasing demands for a volunteer organisation. I constantly say we're a volunteer run organisation, and the things that we have to do are immense. We've got growth in our cost base through, we've now got 2 employees and we'll be moving to the Fred Winter Centre, and the challenges that we have in getting grant funding to maintain that. So the strategic issues that this plan, and I'm whizzing through this very quickly, and I am hoping that you've had a chance to read it, and this is just really refreshing your memory. We've got the relocation from the Methodist Church to the Fred Winter Centre. We're looking constantly at ways to increase our capacity to achieve our aims and objectives. That's all about attaining funding for both core costs, which can be tricky, and project costs. We want to develop and continue to develop our money advice programme, Citizens Advice, continual work with our referral agencies. And I'm hoping that slide I showed you earlier showed you how really important that is with the changing landscape of referral agencies that we have. We want to make sure we're supporting those in the rural areas better, perhaps through deliveries and hub centres. Want to work with Trussell Trust on some of their fantastic initiatives they've got. There's one called Pathfinder, which is a bit like being a blue chip food bank, and we've been lucky and we've been selected through to the next stage of that. Want to continue to look at fresh food, how that can support a healthy eating agenda and food waste. Continue to look at our data analysis. Really important, we need to make sure that our volunteers are having a good time volunteering and it's worthwhile and enjoyable for them, and that's really, really important to me personally. Want to maintain our reputation and goodwill across the area, and we want to continue with our governance, providing effective leadership, management and control. So very briefly, I don't want to go into in great detail, but just to show that there are some monies there. So at the moment, below is our budget forecast to achieve the plans in the 5-year strategic plan. So in 2021, we're looking for £140,000 worth of budget to do what we needed to do, growing up to £226,000 in year 5. Obviously, when you do a 5-year plan, you have to stop and look each year, but at least you can see that it is a costed proposal. So just very briefly to finish on a couple of things that our clients say. Anyone that's seen me do a presentation will probably have seen me show this because I love it so much. This was a Christmas card that was found in a bag of donations one year. And it says, to all the staff of the food bank, thank you all for your help when it was needed. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, love from a family that you helped. And for me, that is absolute evidence that we help people and then they help us back in return. And we've got about 4 case studies. Case studies are quite hard for us because our clients come very quickly. But just to kind of read a quote from Karen's story, I don't know how I would have survived without the help from Stratford Food Bank. They were my lifeline. Laura's family story, we were just a normal family, financially okay. And then one day everything changed. Without Stratford-upon-Avon Food Bank, I really don't know how we would have coped. So hopefully evidence of our impact and what we're doing. So I think I've managed to keep to my 10 minutes. I really tried, Mr. Mayor. I hope I have.
That's fine.
I hope I haven't talked too quickly and stuttered over things. But if anyone's got any questions, Lavinia is here to help me answer the ones that I don't know the answers to.
I'll go back on mute, shall I?
Thank you very much, Marion. It was a little bit quick, well, two places. I think we can take time to reflect. If we share the slideshow amongst the councillors, then at least we can go back and look at some of the detail that was there. Very much got the gist. And I've been part of my mayoral year. I've been very pleased to actually help and be part of Stratford support and helping and doing some deliveries on your behalf. It's been really good to be involved. I've got a couple of questions, but there's lots of councillors with questions, so we'll go down the list. So first, Councillor Warren Howells.
Mayor, thanks, Marion. That was a really interesting presentation. I just want to say that the last year I've worked, obviously, with the food bank during the pandemic. I've learned, obviously, masses, and you're an absolute lifeline to so many. One thing I'm really interested in is reading through your document that you kindly sent about Changing Minds project. Just wanted to know basically how we might, as councillors, be involved in that, help promote it. maybe campaign for you. I mean, I'm not sure how we could help with that, maybe. Possibly talk to residents using our social media sites and so on. So
it's really interesting you should mention that, Councillor Warren-House, because that's exactly what that project's all about, is working with local politicians, and sort of the next natural step for us is to question why we even need to be existing. And in order for that to happen, that's about structural change, and structural change that we can bring about on a local level. That's something that I'm personally passionate about. Lavinia, have you got any comments to say about that?
No, totally agree. Any help we can get would be brilliant. Thank you.
I'm really glad to hear you mention that, Councillor Cole, because we need to prioritise our stuff, and so I can now go to my chair and say the council wants to help us with this, so we can get on with it. So that's great.
So would there be like sorry, could I say again through you, Mayor?
Yeah, sure.
Is there like a formal message we can portray or we can put out, or I mean, how would you like us to do it? I mean, we can talk to residents clearly. I mean, I've been doing it all the time, but is there a message that we can actually convey in a structured fashion to people, possibly?
I think what we need to do is we need to go back to the Trussell Trust and make sure we're getting the key messages right from them. So we've literally just done a kind of a scoping out workshop. So there's probably not something I can do immediately, but soon.
Brilliant. Okay, soon. Thank you very much. That's great. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Rolfe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Marion. As ever, it was a very interesting presentation, and it's been an absolute pleasure that you've been able to be part of our Stratford support group. And I think I just want to reflect on the few occasions that I did a food bank delivery, and there was one that springs to mind, which was, I think, way back in January. It was dark, it was cold, I couldn't find the address. I eventually found the address, and there was a lady standing at the door crying. And of course I couldn't hug her, I couldn't go too close to her, but she was crying because of the relief. She actually looked at me and said, "I can eat tonight." And I can't tell you the effect that had on me, getting back in the car, going home to my house with a lovely warm hot meal waiting for me and a glass of wine. And I thought, oh, you just can't imagine, until you've actually seen it for real, you just can't imagine what wonderful work the food bank does. So thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cleave.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to echo what Councillor Warren-House and Councillor Rolfe have just said. Obviously, working with you, Marion, over the last year on the support group has been incredible. I think what it says in the presentation, highly committed, experienced and active food bank manager, is 100% accurate. I think it can't describe you any better than that. That's exactly what you are. And it's been phenomenal. And as I've said, is also getting used to how it works and how the system works and how we as a referral agency can help as well. And that's been amazing. So thank you for that, Marion. But my question is actually more, I think, probably more for Lavinia as a trustee to answer this. So I hope you can. Sorry if I'm putting you on the spot. Within the presentation, obviously, it said you had 2 vacancies for trustees. Obviously, myself and 2 other councillors are trustees of the town trust. So we see their recruitment process, and I know it's Marion mentioned that you were thinking about how you're going to go forward recruiting. Have you given that much thought yet? Are you looking for, are you putting a process together and looking for particular skills? Because obviously it's good to have people with set skills within the town trust. We've got planners, we've got obviously financial people, lots of different people with certain skills. So how are you going to recruit the 2, and what are you looking for essentially? Not that I'm putting mine in forward.
Well, in answer to the question, yes, we do look at the skills that we require, and one of the skills that we feel we're short of at the moment is financial. So we have been looking within our own volunteer base to see if there would be anyone to step up for that. I don't know the results of that because I haven't been doing that. And when I was recruited, again, a notice went out to volunteers inviting people to step up. and I made the mistake of stepping up. So you know, it depends on if we can actually find the right skills in the people that we've got. What happens after that, I don't know, because I'm still quite new in this. But and whether we're going to recruit 2 or just 1 is still to be decided. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Foytak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, really interesting presentation, and thank you. There's a question for Marion. It sort of how much support within the sort of local community that do you get? I know you've sort of mentioned some of that, but it would be interesting to know what other work is going on within local communities, or what other work that you'd like to see happen, you know, within local communities with the food bank.
Sorry.
And sort of, I'll ask both questions, and then one for Lavinia that maybe that she can answer. I've kind of seen what obviously the 5-year plan, which I've read, and it is very ambitious, and there's a lot of, it looks like there's a lot of work to do. I'm just wondering what consideration the trustees would have given to all the extra demands that are going to be placed on volunteers and staff, and how that's going to be managed, whether you'd need to look at recruiting new staff and new funding to go with that. So yeah, there's 2 questions. Thank you.
Shall I answer the first
You go
one?
first, yeah.
I think Councillor Jason, you were asking me what support we get from the local community. I mean, it's amazing. The support we get from the local community is amazing, and the local business community. In terms of funding, there are lots of local businesses that just write checks for us based on a little bit of engagement with them. The support from the volunteers, I've always been one, if I can describe what I need, whether it's money or a person or a resource or a thing like space. I mean, I can't tell you what it felt like when we were homeless and I woke up in lockdown. It was my birthday and I didn't know where the food bank was going to operate. And then within a week we had, 3 offers. So we take that really, really seriously. This is the community's food bank, and we want to be as inclusive as we can and make sure that it's the community solving these problems. So and we want to lead that, and in a non-political way, but we do want to lead that, to be an agent of change and to reduce the gap between the haves and the have-nots, which in this town I think is really big. So I don't know whether that answers the question, but basically the support from the community is phenomenal. Churches, schools, businesses, community groups, Rotary Roundtable, all of them, they all always saying to me, what can we do? Lavinia, do you want to answer the other question? Because I'm not sure
I will answer the other, but before I do, can I just add to what Marion was saying, in that we also have incredibly creative ways where individuals actually engage with us. I was at a distribution session last week where somebody came in with a cheque for £120 because they were celebrating the easing of lockdown. He invited all his friends to come and have a drink in his garden and charged them all to do so. And the results of that was £120. And we thought, great, what a creative way. So yes, the community does support us very much. In answer to your question about resources, you're absolutely right. The strategic plan is ambitious, and I think we need to be ambitious because I think, the economic crisis hasn't quite hit yet, but may well do, and we need to be prepared for that. We do recognise that there are resource issues, and we may need to recruit for that, and we will cross those bridges as we come to it. If we need to recruit, we will need to do fundraising to support it. So we're not blinkered in what we want to do, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be ambitious either. does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Alcock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hello, Marion. Hello, Lavinia.
Hello.
My question is, across all the levels of council and across agencies and community work, is there enough joined up thinking for the biggest benefit that we can give to the food bank?
Oh, that's a tricky one.
Yeah.
I would never make it easier for you, Marion, let's be honest.
Joined up thinking. Okay, so I'm going to tell you something first of all, is we're not part of any local authority. So I will actively be in meetings when we used to be able to meet in Elizabeth House and kind of say, well, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. We're just a volunteer organisation. I think it's very easy for us to be the answer to lots of local authority problems, and we need to guard against that. With regard to joined up thinking, I think the Fred Winter Centre offers us a really good opportunity on a very local level, and I think we're really, well, I don't know, I haven't really been an adult anywhere else other than Stratford, really, I don't think, but it feels to me like we're very gifted in working together. We're a very interesting town. That's one of the reasons why we've been selected to be a Pathfinder food bank, because we're an interesting mix of rural and town. And I think we've got the abilities through the Fred Winter Centre and just generally to make things different locally. How that can then work out beyond that, I don't know. Often people think that we're Stratford District Council food bank, and there are other food banks in SDC area as well as us. So I don't know, I haven't really answered your question, Victoria, because I don't really know well enough. I can tell you something, occasionally when I'm dealing with statutory agencies at county council level, I feel like I'm talking to the same department and a different person on every single occasion, and it does my head in. So we have this thing now where every 3 weeks we do a referral agency training. We just get them all to pile on so that everybody knows how to refer to us. And we just make that as part of what we do, because the thought of, in the old days, I thought if I trained one person in one local council team, they would cascade it out. It doesn't work like that. We have to constantly keep, and maybe that's just the way it is. So yeah, I don't really know. I haven't really answered your question, have I? But hopefully I've given you a sense of my feelings.
You've given me an idea. Thank you for that, Marion. I appreciate it.
Lavinia, have you got anything else to add to that?
No, I sort of agree with what you're saying. I mean, the only thing I would also add, just very briefly, is I think Stratford is an amazing town by having the multi-agency Fred Winter Centre right in the heart of the town. We are a tourist town, and lots of councils would want to hide the fact that there is any kind of need or poverty. And the fact that our council hasn't done that, I think, is brilliant. And you should all be absolutely proud of yourselves for it. That's my two penneth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dyer.
It was now some time ago since I was a volunteer at the
I remember.
And it's well worth doing. I recommend it. I enjoyed it. Good to meet people, good to help them. So volunteer if you have the time.
So Councillor Dyer raises a really, really good point, because it's very easy to think all about the clients.
Yeah.
But the value that we do with regards to offering a really meaningful volunteering opportunity that has kept going through lockdown when lots of things haven't happened, I feel sure the contribution to local mental health and stuff has been really good, because we just kept going.
Thank you. Just a follow-on really from Councillor Dyer's point, which is, I mean, hopefully there will be members of the public watching this Zoom meeting who'll be either engaged or want to be involved or want to help. So I wasn't quite sure how you would sort of promote, what's the best way that people can help?
Okay.
Would you like potential volunteers to be a trustee to put their names forward, or is that you? Or does it provide food or going on your list or whatever? Yeah.
So Lavinia, I mean, I would suggest if anyone's interested in trusteeship, they should email the website email address is on the website, which is info@stratford-upon-Avon.foodbank.org.uk. that comes to me and I can forward any emails on. That's probably the easiest one. Or if you go onto the volunteering page on our website, there's a volunteer email address that you can go to. We're always interested in having volunteers. We have to manage people's expectations. We are a service, so we do create our rotas 2 to 3 months in advance. I can't be sitting here knowing that I've got gaps in my rota in 3 weeks' time. I just wouldn't be able to cope. So our rotas are rotated a long way ahead. But people do fall off and fall on, and if people want to join our holding list, that's the best place to go, because any opportunity that can't be met by our existing volunteers is gone there. First of all, we do have 2 key volunteering roles at the moment. We're looking for a volunteer to help me with our referral agency coordination. It's being done currently by a new graduate. He's been absolutely brilliant. It's the kind of work that is a fantastic work experience. I'm really sad to be losing him, but that's a role that's up for the moment. And Lavinia, you might want to talk about the warehouse manager role.
We have a opportunity for a warehouse manager. Our past warehouse manager, Marina Dunn, has stepped down from that role. It is a key, the warehouse is the beating heart of the food bank. We need somebody to come along and provide leadership to the teams that we have currently actually doing the work. So somebody to steer the tiller. It would be brilliant, and please send their CVs in.
So both those roles can be seen in more detail on our website. If you go to the volunteering page, it's very easy to find the navigation, and to see the full roles, you can click a PDF link and see the full role descriptions.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for your time this evening, walking us through that. It's been really interesting. It's been obviously a great project, and all the best when you move into the Fred Winter Centre. I was hoping it was going to be open in my mayoral year, and I could have come and opened it, but I'll pass it on to Councillor Taylor. So, thank you very much. You're welcome to stay on the Zoom call, listen to the rest of the meeting if you wish. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Right, item 40.1, Town Clerk's Open Town Council report. I'm just going to take it as granted that you have all read the report and you know all the detail that's in there. So first of all, so it's just a question of noting certain things, I think. So the first one is to just note the temporary withdrawal of the community catalyst proposal. I don't know, Councillor Foytek, do you just want to give a quick summary of where we are with the withdrawal and whether that will come back at a later date?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So basically, what's happened so far is that we weren't able to find a host for a member of staff to begin the process of interview and appointment for the 1 year post, and I think several charities were approached, but it wasn't the right time for them. There's a lot of charities coming out of COVID that have got other things going on. So adding to this at this particular time wasn't creating the interest that we were hoping. However, that kind of the plan then would be is to extend this to a 3-year position, but that sort of demands more funding and more time to actually put that together. So I think now it's an opportunity to actually do something far more comprehensive. So we think this process is probably going to take about 6 months to bring that together, and it will also, because it's going to be a bigger pot of money. This will allow more options to host a new member of staff, and then put this out to tender for a greater number of organisations, not just in Stratford, but perhaps organisations that have got more expertise in this particular field further afield. So I'd like to thank Stratford Town Council for the support that they've given this so far, and I'm hoping that we can come back to the Town Council for support with this when I can sort of give you more details. It's very much still on the agenda, and I'm hoping something positive will move forward in the future.
That's great. Presumably, in the first instance, you will bring this back to the Community Services Committee to discuss, will you?
I can do that, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Right, so at the last Community Services meeting, there was the discussion got a bit confused because there were the two separate things, but with the community catalyst being deferred, we'd like to sort of suggest that the proposal for preserving community halls be brought back to community services for further discussion. And to help do that and to work that through, we are looking for a number of councillors just to sit on a working party, just to look at the implications and understand all the issues relating to community halls. Is there anybody who wants to put their name forward to sit on that working group? Right, Madam Town Clerk, I can see on my screen Councillor Foytek, Councillor Alcock, Councillor Cleave, Councillor Howe, Councillor Coles and Councillor Rolfe. In which case, I'm sure, I suspect that will be enough people. So if you could separately get together and decide how you're going to progress that. Councillor Coles, as this is really your initiative, will you coordinate that working group in the first instance? Thank you. It's good.
Mr. Mayor, may I just check? Did Councillor Jenny Fradgley put her hand up?
I didn't see it, but she might have done. Councillor Jenny Fradgley.
I came in a little late because I thought an issue that I'd like to raise with it. So I'd quite like to be there for its inception, at least, to put some ideas forward.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Item 14.2 is to note the report on the Local Government Association Model Members Code of Conduct. And as you'll have seen from your papers, the actual decision to vote to adopt this has been deferred because we need to align ourselves with the primary authority, which is Warwickshire County Council, who won't be voting on this until later in the year. So this item, so you've got plenty of time to read through the new code of conduct, which I'm sure we will adopt in due course, just to understand all the implications. And that item will be brought back to a future town council meeting to vote and adopt. Has anybody got any questions arising from that? No. Right, 14.3 again. This is one of those interesting ones where, in my 6 years as a councillor, I don't think I've ever been in a committee meeting where any councillor has submitted a request for dispensation to vote on one. And looking at the guidelines, I think that there are probably lots of examples where that should have happened in the past. So we've clarified the guidance notes. And so can I ask you all to make sure that you read the guidance notes and submit a request for dispensation as and when the need arises. The other question arising from that is that it's slightly ambiguous as to who should grant the dispensation. And what we wanted to avoid was that the request coming to the committee and the committee spending a major part of that committee meeting discussing and agreeing whether to accept the dispensation. So the proposal is that the town clerk takes the responsibility for agreeing whether that dispensation is approved or not. Again, Madam Town Clerk, do you want to add anything to that, or is that
no?
Happy? I think it might be worth doing some. I've got an example that it sticks in my mind, and I just think I need to fill in a practice one just to see how the process works. I think the dispensation application form that you've published is a PDF document. So although I could download it, I couldn't actually type anything in. So if we could have a Word version, that would be great, and we can do that.
I just, it is in my report, Mr. Mayor, but I just want to reiterate that applying for a dispensation and you know, I would consider it. And obviously, if I'm in any doubt, I would consult with the monitoring officer. But that's not to say that I take responsibility for you declaring interests. That remains your responsibility.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, item 14.4 is all about the Fair Trade Stratford. Two things. One is we need to give our formal support. Sorry, bear with me. Right, so we just need, it comes up for renewal every 2 years for the town to be a fair trade town within the Fair Trade Foundation. And it would be good if Town Council supported Stratford-upon-Avon being a fair trade town. So again, have you got any questions arising from that? Otherwise, if we could have a vote to show your support for Fair Trade Stratford. Show of hands, please.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, if you're voting yes, that would be unanimous.
Oh, sorry, sorry, yeah. I err on the side of not voting just in case it's a split vote. Right, and the other thing is they are looking for one of the councillors to put themselves forward to be a representative on the Fair Trade Town Steering Group. If there is any councillor who is interested in taking up that position, could they express an interest now? Otherwise, perhaps we can all reflect. Councillor Dyer?
Since I've got quite a few contacts I know already involved with fair trade, particularly for the various churches, I'm prepared to volunteer.
That's fine if Councillor Dyer wants to do it. That's great, especially as he is on the churches groups.
Does that mean, Councillor McKenzie, that you would be interested as well? Because I think
If they wanted to, yes, I'd be interested as well.
I get the impression from Roger Matthews that they are short of numbers. So I think if we could have two councillors, that would be fantastic. That's
okay.
A real show of support.
Forward then.
Yeah.
I did send a follow-up email to Mr. Matthews to say, when are your meetings and where are your meetings? So I'm still waiting to hear from him, but I'll write tomorrow and pass on your details to him.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Right. Item 14.5 is to appoint the members for the standing committees for the next 12 months. As you know, obviously Councillor Taylor, who is on 3 of those committees, will step down. Well, he'll become mayor, so he'll be on everything. So my 3 committees that I was on before I became mayor were Finance, Community Services, and Planning Consultative Committee, and I'd like to go back on those 3. So that's myself and Councillor Taylor discussed. Is there anybody who wants to change committee or take the opportunity or have anything to say? Virtual hands, please. Yeah, Councillor Alcock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I please come off finance and go on to planning?
Yes, please. Yeah, I think planning is where we're short of skill. Well, no, that's short of people.
Well, I'm glad you want me back on the committee, Mr. Mayor. That makes
absolutely.
Me very happy.
Councillor Cleave.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to now upset you again, because I'd like to come off planning, not because not because I don't like it. It's actually a very interesting committee. It's just the time commitment at the moment is extremely busy. So if there is someone else who's willing to step in, that would be great.
You're already on 2 other committees anyway, Councillor Cleave. So you're just staying on the other 2, coming off planning. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm quite happy to stay where I am, which is on finance and audit, civic heritage and planning. I'd particularly like to stay on planning. If somebody else wants to replace me on the others, I'm quite happy, but I'm quite happy to stay where I am for continuity, if that helps.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Dyer.
Providing sufficient people to stay on planning, I would like to leave planning, since I've been in planning since I started my time as a councillor.
Right. You are also, are you looking to transfer to another committee, Councillor Dyer? You look to be, finance looks to be, is that your only other committee?
It would be at the moment, so I am involved with the fair trade one, and I'm also involved with the environment one as well.
Right, but on the standing committees, you just be on the one. Can I just check with Councillor Ian Fradley, just to check on numbers and losing 2 and gaining 1? Does that cause you an issue, Councillor Ian Fradley?
Well, it depends on who else wants to leave or join. Could I make one comment though, Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yes, sure.
In the town clerk's report, she said that some people have to be, well, some people we have to be on at least 2, but some people will have to be on 3 committees. I think I could put up a case that for anybody who is on planning, which has 17 meetings a year, should be those who are allowed to be on 2 and not 3, if they so wish.
I would be prepared to stay on if it results in a shortage, then I will stay on planning. If it doesn't, not sufficient people doing it.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Dyer. I'll just go see the others. Councillor Rolfe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm more than happy to stay on community and civic heritage and events. May I ask the town clerk something, please? At the district council, the planning committees have substitutes. Now, I am more than happy to substitute on planning. I don't want a job share, that's a completely different scenario, but I'm more than happy. I've got all the planning training that is required at the district. I'm more than happy if at the last minute somebody cannot make planning and I am available, I'm more than happy to be there. Is that possible to have substitutes?
I'm sorry, my clock's going off, which is why I muted myself. Forgive me. The answer to that is we discussed that at the last meeting when we looked at the committee structure. Planning in particular, because you're on the district council, that's fine because you're getting planning training. But there needs to be continuity with planning. It's very specialised, and just to sort of come in if you have not got that planning knowledge would not be beneficial. And therefore, at the last meeting, you actually determined that there would not be substitutes, and we do not have substitutes across the board. If you want to change that, so be it. But that is why you did it last time, and substitutes are not part of our governance at the moment.
Personally, I will still stay on financial audit, and if it results in a difficulty with planning, I will stay on planning, only if there's sufficient people to do it already.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Dyer. Madam Town Clerk, can I just check if we the council wanted to change the position on substitutes or last minute replacements, which committee would consider that as an option? Is it audit and governance? Is it? Well, yeah.
I think it would be civic heritage and events, actually. Where does where's Councillor Howe? Where does governance sit comfortably?
Governance was removed because things should be brought to the town council.
So it would have to be council. Yeah. I mean, I can put a paper together for the next town council meeting to consider it properly, because rather than just making a rash move tonight, I think it needs to be thought through as to how we can do it sensibly. And I'll find out what happens at the district council. So I suggest that that's what we do over substitutes.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you're muted.
Sorry, did you miss all that then?
Yes.
What was I going to say? Right, I agree with everything that you've said there. The important thing is that we must make sure that there are sufficient councillors on every standing committee for them to operate appropriately. So if we have a concern that planning might be short of numbers, then actually looking at the option of introducing substitutes is obviously a really good idea. So if we take that forward to a future town council meeting for discussion, that'd be great. Thank you. Councillor Foytek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm quite happy to go on to planning. If Councillor Dyer wants to step back, but I'd probably want to come off communities if that's possible. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Ian Fradgley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to record that I would like to stay on planning and I'd like to stay on HR. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dowling.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that we should have a little tot up and just check the numbers on each committee and where we are before we make decisions about any substitutes or anything else. If our committees are all in order, then they should just carry forward as normal. I'm quite happy to stay on finance and planning. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Voss.
Yes, presumably you'd like us to confirm that we want to stay, in which case it's community, civic, personnel and finance for me, please.
Yeah, I think I'm taking the approach that if you don't say anything, you're happy where you are. That's the, yeah. Right, I think I've got 5 legacy hands showing.
Mr. Mayor, I have to say I'm rather confused over all this. Could I just read out the membership of each committee, and then if people want to come off or come on, we'll stop at that stage, because it's really rather difficult to record who's doing what and going where. So if I can start with finance and audit, it's Alcock, Coles, Curtis, Dowling, Dyer, Foytik, Howe, Lee and Voss.
Yeah, and Councillor Alcock is coming off and I'm going back on.
Right, thank you. Okay, the community services. Cleve, Coles, J. Fradgley, Howe, Rolfe, Taylor, Voss and Wall.
You missed off Councillor Foytek there, but
he said he's coming off.
Yes, exactly. Yes, so you missed him off, but he's looking to transfer from community services to planning.
Yes.
Yep.
So we're 1 short on that committee. Okay, civic heritage and events. Alcock, Cleve, Curtis, J. Fradgley, Mackenzie, Rolfe, Taylor. Oh, Taylor's the mayor, so Wall and Warren Howells. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're 1 short on that one. And then on planning now, I'm thinking this is what planning is going to be. Alcock, Curtis, Dowling, I. Fradgley, J. Fradgley, Lee and Foytik.
And Taylor and myself.
And Jackson, right, thank you.
Oh, yeah, sorry, not, yeah, sorry, Councillor
Right,
Taylor,
and then the personnel committee is Alcock, Ifradgley, Mackenzie, Ross, Wall and Warren Howells.
Yep.
Everyone happy? Right. So I've got that, if everyone's happy with that. But we're 2 short. Well, sorry, we're 1 short on community services and 1 short on civic heritage and events.
In respect to civic heritage, I mean, I've been present on that whilst Councillor Wall's been absent, and I would propose that if everyone's happy, that I continue in on that committee and fill that extra space in officially.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
So 1 short for civic heritage and events then?
No, that was Councillor Voss has gone on civic heritage.
Oh, community services
1
then?
short on community services, yeah.
Anyone willing?
Councillor Dyer, is that a legacy hand?
You left your hand up. Have I?
And you're not muted.
Sorry.
No.
Just 1 more person for community services.
Could you?
Oh, hang on. Councillor Mackenzie.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll join community services. So
Thank you very much.
Yeah, personnel, civic and heritage and community services.
Right. Thank you.
Just one other thing on standing committees. Could I just remind all councillors that under Standing Order C19, any member, any councillor can sit in as an observer on any of the committee meetings. So if just one of the things that I've really learned from my mayoral year is actually sitting in on all of the committees, being extremely valuable to me. You get a far greater appreciation for everything that goes on. So if there is a committee that you don't know what's going on, actually taking the opportunity just to sit in as an observer and get a greater understanding is good practice and good learning. Right, thank you. Any hands up still? Councillor Cleave.
Yeah, I just want to repeat what you've just said. That's one of the benefits of the past year, having all the meetings recorded, is we've been able to watch back, and I found it really fascinating. So despite the position we've been in, it's been a really good learning curve. So I highly recommend anybody else wanting to watch one to do that. Thank you.
Right. Which is to move on to 14.6, which is to appoint members of subgroups. Can I just remind councillors that attendance on a subgroup, it's really important that if you put your name forward for a subgroup, that you attend. Now, I appreciate the last 12 months has been really difficult because we've moved away from real meetings to virtual meetings, and a lot of these meetings are during the day, so that might have impacted people on their possible attendance. But going forwards, can I, when I read your name out for future groups for the next 12 months, could you just remember that you need to commit to attending? And I think we must assume for the time being that those meetings will continue to be virtually and will continue to be during the day. So there's obviously going to be some clash with other commitments. Councillor Cleave, you got your hand up, or is that a legacy?
Yeah, no, you've just answered my question, I think. The question is are we able to continue these even when we do go back to face-to-face meeting? Having the subgroups virtually does make, and because they're in the daytime, it does make it easier to attend if we're working as well. So I don't know if that's something going forward, because they're subgroups, if it's something we can keep, if people are happy to stay virtual, to keep it virtually.
I think you will be able to have subgroup working party meetings. What you can't do is make a decision. So if everything will be a recommendation, and then it would get ratified by your mother standing committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Yeah, I'd also like to get that, want to get that clarified as well. Certainly, I mean, I work on 3 of these groups. It's actually been a lot easier in the last year for me to attend on this. If I work during the daytime, and it makes it more challenging for me to attend these meetings. And certainly I'm I do a fair amount of work for these, probably possibly more than for the actual committees themselves. So it'd be very useful to get that clarified on what we can and can't do.
I'm not quite sure who would make the decision, but my view is that wherever possible, we should continue to have Zoom meetings. So for all the working groups, I definitely propose that. Is that something we need to vote on, Madam Town Clerk, or is that a...
You can vote. I mean, I think this is exactly what the government is saying, that that these sort of meetings can continue. It is purely and utterly a decision that they have to be in view of the public, etc. So working party meetings are not called like ordinary statutory meetings, and they are held behind closed doors. So there is nothing to stop us continuing with this. But as I say, it has to be ratified by your standing committee in due course.
Right, in which case, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, could we just vote with a show of real hands whether you are happy for virtual meetings to continue for the subgroups?
It's unanimous.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Right, so the subgroups then, if I read, I'll just run through the different groups, and I will assume that councillors will be staying on the different groups unless they put their hand up and tell me otherwise. So, Councillor Fradgley, Councillor Ian Fradgley, you?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, are we saying that standing committees cannot be via a virtual meeting?
We're still waiting for that decision to be confirmed. At the moment, the government legislation is that they will revert to real meetings in person after the 7th of May. But there's a court decision that's going to rule on whether we can continue with Zoom meetings, and we're awaiting the decision from the court anytime in the next week or so. So the subgroups will definitely be virtual. The final decision is still out on the standing committees and the town council, but we are expecting them to move to real meetings in the future.
Could I make a request then? Could chairman's actions and additional chairman's actions be classified as a subgroup?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure it can. Yeah.
Because it's a lot better if we can run the chairman's actions meetings virtually.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's fine. I'd class that as being a subgroup.
Thank you. And I'm a planning consultant who would be very pleased to hear that as well.
Yeah. Right, so the different subgroups that we've got the Asset Register Review Group. Currently, this is councillors Alcock, Cleave, Coles, Lee, Taylor and Warren Howells. Are we all happy? Oh, hands up. Councillor Alcock.
Could I come off that group, please, Mr. Mayor?
Okay. Councillor Howe.
Could I please go on to that group, please, Mr. Mayor?
Blimey. Was well planned. Almost that was prearranged. That's good. Thank you. That's good. Right, the emergency response group. I think is that just constituted when there's an emergency and it's open to. Sorry, I might need Madam Town Clerk. Can you just clarify, please, for me here?
Yeah,
on the emergency
yes, I can.
group?
No, the emergency group does exist. It has to be chaired by the mayor at the time, and currently it's you, Mr. Mayor, councillors Alcock, Cleave, Cole, J. Fradgley, Rolfe, and Taylor.
Right. So.
But
right.
it has not met because we haven't had that sort of an emergency, if you like.
And we hope that we never meet. Can I just suggest that as I was on it as mayor and Councillor Taylor was on it as deputy mayor, that we just carry on and Councillor Taylor will be on it as mayor and I will carry on as just an ordinary councillor.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The Environmental Strategy Panel is currently councillors Cleve, Coles, Curtis, Dyer, Fradgley, Jenny Fradgley, that is, Lee and Warren Howells. Are we all happy? Councillor Cleve, hand up.
Yeah, just for now, as strongly as I feel about it, and it's an incredible group and doing so much work. I'm just, again, time commitment. I'm really struggling with getting to there. I have missed several, so I think it's better if I can come off it, please.
Who's chair of that?
Jenny, Councillor Fradgley.
Leaves you with 6 councillors. Councillor Fradgley, is that sufficient, or are you looking for?
I think that's sufficient, but if anybody else wants to come on it, it would be open to anybody else who actually comes up with an idea or a particular sort of passion of the moment. We would be very, very open to new ideas coming in.
Bear me in mind. I think I'm in that position of transition from mayoral and being on everything to I might have some spare capacity. So if you're struggling, please let me know and I can come on that. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
But, the Market Forum is currently councillors Taylor, Ian Fradgley and Councillor Dowling.
Yeah, I haven't been able to make too many of those because of internet problems, but that should ease very shortly. So hopefully I'd like to stay on that one.
You'd like to stay on? Yep.
Yeah, and finally take some part in some of the meetings.
Councillor Rolfe?
I just wanted to say that if anybody wants to come off, I'm willing to put my name forward for this group.
Right, so presumably, Councillor Dowling, your involvement will be dependent on you having good Wi-Fi access, which you haven't got.
I think the Market Forum is slightly different, Mr. Mayor. I think the Market Forum will not just be by Zoom. I think there will be times when we will actually have to go out on the streets and have a look. But yes, but I can guarantee you that by the end of May, my internet will be fully up and running.
Thank you. Councillor Ian Fradgley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd very much like to stay on the Market Forum.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to stay on the Market Forum, and I would just like to clarify that we have already decided that these meetings would stay virtually and continue on the. We won't be having any meetings in district or town council offices as we did pre-COVID.
Thank you. Is that a new hand, Councillor Rolfe? Or
it is, yes. Yeah. Is it possible that I could put my name forward for this group, please?
I'm not sure how many representatives we are allowed on the panel, Madam Town Clerk.
We're allowed 3.
In which case, if Councillor Dowling is going to be able to resolve his Wi-Fi issue,
just lock me up, but I'll get voted up anyway.
So Councillor Rolfe, Councillor Ian Fradgley and Councillor Taylor.
Yep, okay. The next one is the Town Centre and Town Traffic Task and Finish Group. Currently councillors Curtis, Coles, Dowling, Foytek, Howe, Lee, Taylor and Voss. We've also got councillors Jenny Fradgley and Rolfe, who were previously on as observers but now members of the committee. So that's quite a comprehensive list of councillors. Are you all happy to stay on that? Councillor Foytek.
I've not been able to make the meetings for this, so it's probably best I come off. Just bad timing. So I'll come off. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Dowling.
Same goes for me, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Voss.
Yeah, I think the town clerk made a note that there was a risk of not being quorate, but with councillors Fradgley and Rolfe on as full members, I should think quorate would be achieved. And just to repeat what I've been saying for some time, this has turned out to be a most rewarding and productive subgroup. And I will say it again, as I've said privately, but publicly, much of that has been down to the work and skill of Councillor Lee. And I think it's made it into one of the, in my view, more important subgroups, which is now, we'll see, will have a direct impact on the future of the town.
Thank you. Councillor Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer my apologies for the number of meetings of this group that I've been unable to attend because of unavoidable diary clashes, but I'd like to stay on the group and make every effort to attend more of the meetings going forward, if that's okay with my fellow councillors on that group and the chair, obviously.
Thank you. Can I, Councillor Howe?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, for jumping in there at the end.
Okay.
Could I've also incidentally sort of missed quite a few of those just because of the timing. And I was just wondering whether, just asking the town clerk whether it's possible to kind of encourage the officers in charge of arranging those to use more of the Doodle software, which works very well for planning those.
Sorry, to use what? Sorry.
The Doodle polls where you can say which is your availability ahead of time, and we can all choose a date when the majority is available. That normally ends up with the meetings with majority of members attending. Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Voss, can I make the same offer to you as I just made to Jenny Fradgley, Councillor Jenny Fradgley? If you are short and you're in danger of becoming inquorate for whatever reason, please, that's another one that I'd be interested in staying on. I've attended most of the meetings, so I know the background. So if you need me, I should be available.
I was going to say something like, well, we'll have to consider that with due process. But of course we would.
You
of
consider
course.
it, that's fine. Right, the Town Hall Income Facilities and Wellbeing Panel. This is actually, it's an interesting one because that panel has actually been it's been taken over by the Community Services Committee, but arising out of that panel, which was in situ prior to the COVID and had set up a task and finish group effectively. So there's an existing task and finish group which consists of councillors Cleave, Coles, Mackenzie, Taylor, Voss and myself, and that's been looking at the internal and external refurbishment of the town hall. So that's the task and finish group that's continuing to meet and will continue until all the work is complete. But separately, there is a separate task and finish group which is going to review the tariffs, usage and potential income streams. And that task and finish group hasn't met yet, but the committee members have been, people have put their names forward. So that task and finish group will comprise, in no particular order, councillors Jenny Fradgley, Councillor Rolfe, Coles, Howe, Mackenzie, Voss and myself. So that's two task and finish groups arising out of the Income Facilities and Wellbeing Panel that will in future report into Community Services. Yeah. And finally, there's the website and social media and newsletter panel, which currently comprises councillors Alcock, Cleave, Curtis, Howe, Councillor Ian Fradgley and Councillor Warren Howells. Do we all know? Councillor Ian Fradgley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to come off that committee. Thank you.
Councillor Howe.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, this was just about the previous item.
Previously legacy hand.
No, sorry, my hand was missed. Is there any opportunity? Is that the task and finish group looking at the renovations? Is that at capacity? It's just a confirmation that those listed in the report are members of that.
Yes, that's yeah. So Cleve, Coles, Jackson, Mackenzie, Taylor, and Voss. And we've been involved for probably over 12 months on that work, because the work for the external refurbishment started 12 months ago and was interrupted. There's no reason why you can't join if you wish, but like I say, that's a long outstanding committee, so you'll be coming in as a newbie at the end. Depends on whether you want to be involved or not. But I'm not going to turn down a good man.
Yeah, no, I'd love to be involved. Thank you.
On which one, please? Is it these or?
That's the internal and external refurbishment group.
Right. Thank you.
Yep. Right. Just remind me, Councillor Warren Howells, you are the chair of the website and social media panel, I think. Is that correct? Can I?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I am.
Yeah, yes. So I'm not quite sure how many members you want. You've got, with the Councillor Ian Fradgley dropping out, you've got Councillors Alcock, Cleve, Curtis, Howe, and yourself. Are you short on numbers there?
Is that 5? 1,
5,
2,
yeah.
5. How many do I need?
I don't know.
Is there a number? Doesn't matter. Well, I mean, unless anybody wants to join the group, I mean, I'm sure 5 can, can get things done. I'm happy with 5, but if anybody wants to join the group, then fantastic.
Right. So it says no more than 6. So,
oh, right. Okay. Well, 5's all right then.
5's all right.
Yes. Dyer has raised his hand.
Councillor Dyer.
Yeah, well, I would like to join this group, if I may. If I may.
Yeah, okay. If you come on instead of Councillor Ian Fradgley then.
Yes, if that's okay, yes.
Great to have you then,
Thank
Councillor
you.
Dyer.
Right, I've lost all my papers. Where's my agenda gone? Come on. Right, okay, on to item 15, which is the written report by representatives to outside bodies. There have been 3 reports submitted by Councillor Taylor for Stratford Bid, Councillor Taylor for Ping, and Councillor Howe for the Fred Winter Centre. You'll have all read them. I'm just going to assume that you're going to have read them and noted, and thanks to Councillors Taylor and Howe for their work and submissions. Has anybody got any questions for either councillor on either of the written reports? No. In which case we'll move on. 16 is verbal ward reports. Has any councillor got any matters of important issues that they wish to bring to Town Council's attention? Councillor Ian Fradgley.
Yeah, apologies. I'd like to mention that the Planning Committee have been looking at having themes for the way we name streets within the town boundary, and you know we're always gaining new new roads which we have to name, and I'd like to commend Councillor Lee, who has put together a very good map of the variations and themes that we have, and we put it out to councillors. Any councillors who has some themes that they want to propose, could they please send it to Lisa by tomorrow, because it's going to be an agenda item on the Planning Committee next week, and Lisa has to put the papers out tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rolfe.
Yes, I just wanted to mention that Knights Lane is closed for the next 7 weeks. It's quite a main cut through from the Loxley Road to the Tiddington Road. Just wanted to avoid you all getting stuck if you come over this side. Thank you.
Where's it stopped at?
The whole of night. Well, no, sorry. Knights Lane is closed, is open up to Townsend Road. It's the top of Knights Lane, but obviously you can't get to the bottom from the Loxley Road.
I can still get to the NFU Mutual car park with
You
the potential
can.
clubbers. Yes,
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Councillor Howe.
Can I just a question for Councillor Ian Fradgley? Have we looked to communicate with the Stratford Society on potential naming themes for roads? I'm sure they will have much some good context and history to provide us.
Not that I'm aware of, but Councillor Lee has done all the background work.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Just to clarify, I mean, I think just on the point of the naming, so obviously sent an email following the discussion at the last planning committee, and thanks for all your responses. It's not something I've been able to go on to yet. As Councillor Ian Fradgley has stated, he's going to put this on the agenda. I certainly see this as an ongoing discussion potentially. It's not, and certainly it's only really to come up with a pool of potential names. So whenever the council gets asked for any street names, we've got something already thought of. Then it would be debated and a appropriate decision made at that time.
Thank you. Councillor Rolfe.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor came up with a very good suggestion today, which I believe has been responded by various councillors. His list of insects, and that hasn't been used yet, and I think Mayfly Mews sounds great.
Yes. I did go through all the list of insects. I didn't think dung beetle close had a ring to it, but never mind. But we should be able to get sufficient names. Thank you. Item 17, Town Clerk's General Verbal Report. Madam Town Clerk, nothing to say. In which case, the next meeting of the Town Council will be mayor making at the Town Hall. Are we definitively at the Town Hall, Madam Town Clerk? The mayor making?
When I wrote this, I'm having to go on government guidelines, which is saying as of the 7th of May, you have to meet virtually. You can't meet virtually. So watch this space, or I will obviously let you know ASAP.
Right, but that will be the next Town Council meeting, Friday the 21st of May at 12 noon. And can I just remind you all that the virtual town meeting is this Thursday at 6:30. So if you could all come along just for, I don't think it will be a long meeting, but it would be good to have your presence there so that members of the public can see who you are. It's just be good. In that case, I'm going to close the meeting. Thanks everybody for watching and thanks for your presence. And could I just remind councillors just to stay on the call when the call ends, when the Zoom